Doing hard things gives you the ability to do more hard things. Oh, what a great perspective.
Yeah, man.
What a great perspective. Welcome to the Focal Flip Podcast. Every week we take a deep dive into the mystery and stigma behind mental health and explore real-life stories of struggle and triumph. We aim to educate and encourage others as we bring together a diverse group of guests. From the streets to sanctuaries, classrooms to boardrooms, mental health does not discriminate, neither do we. Prepare to laugh, prepare to cry, prepare to be changed. Let's get into it. So I'm going to start putting a little quote of the day here behind me. I had one on fear and faith the other day about they both are something that you have to choose and something you can't see, believe in something you can't see. And you can choose faith or fear. So this is doing hard things gives you the ability to do more hard things.
For sure.
Break it down, Nick.
Break that down. Well, I heard that on a podcast.
Love podcasts.
There was the coach of the Duke women's basketball team talks about doing hard things better. And that resonated with me. Nobody likes to handle hard. You don't adapt to challenges, but you can handle hard better, is what she said. And then I think it was maybe on a Rogan podcast, about the more we do hard things, the more it builds these neuropathways in our brain to allow ourselves to see and understand that we can do hard things. So the more hard things we do, it allows us to do more hard things. And I talk about that a lot with my students, players. It's something that resonates in my head a lot often, especially like if I'm working out or I'm running or something. I'm like that internal voice that I know you've talked about. It comes into play a lot. It's like, you can do this. You've done harder things. You've accepted more challenges. So you can do this. And I think that's an important perspective to have.
Yeah,
so,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
What a way to open this sucker up, Nick. What a way to open it up. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Focal Flip Podcast. We just did our sound check and rolled right into this sucker because I've got a good friend of mine, fellow Simon Kenton alum. We've coached together. He's a great dude. We've scouted teams together. We've traveled down to Great Crossing when it first opened up to scout back when we first started coaching together.
What was the song we were listening to, Mike? We sang that, buddy, the whole way.
You got it.
Oh, my gosh, man. That was just me and you in the car on the highway coming back north on 75. It's boning biggie.
Notorious Thugs.
Notorious Thugs. Wow, dude. Just me and you in the car singing that. That was great.
This is the best intro to every podcast, any podcast I've had yet. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that part up because if anybody knows Bone Thugs and Harmony, little BT&H, Notorious Thugs, that's a hard song to rap. Me and Nick verbatim.
The whole thing.
We can word for word it the whole way through.
We kind of like bounce back and forth with the verses. Like, you take this one, I'll take this one.
We did naturally.
Dude, that was so great. That's how I knew that was going to be a great year, man.
Yeah, see, you and I go together scouting, and it's Notorious Thugs. And then when I would go with Belcher, it's Black Hawk.
Yes, Black Hawk.
Keaton Belcher was just Black Hawk.
Dude, I remember those days blasting. We'd be in the car like on the way to some like 10th region school, Paris or somewhere, and just bumping Black Hawk. It's so funny. But there was some Ja Rule in there too.
Ja Rule was in there.
Yeah.
Golly. That's what happens. You get a bunch of competitors together, and now we got to coach people.
That's right, man. I'll tell you.
You never know what will motivate you. It could be Black Hawk. It could be Notorious Thugs.
Hey,
it could be all of it.
It's important to be versatile,
I'm learning that. All right, everybody. This is Nick Dorning. He is the head coach at Ryle High School for the boys varsity basketball program. Great dude. Very interesting story. Cool upbringing. Really neat path of how he got into coaching. Ex-military guy. He's a military man, Air Force. So he has such a unique perspective. And with him coming over and taking the reins at Ryle, was his opportunity to set a foundation for something that he had a vision for. And a lot of us as spectators right now, we're seeing it. So kudos to you and the program.
Thanks,
and to
Mike.
admin for buying into you. And we're seeing some really good residuals from what you first started with those kids.
I think you were there for the beginning. First of all, kudos to you, man, because, we've known each other for a long time. And if people had any idea about the great work that you were doing here, when you first told me about this idea, maybe 6-8 months ago, over the summer when we met at Simon Kenton, and you talked about focal flip, I'm like, and being a podcast guy myself, I'm like, dude, this is an amazing idea. And I've watched a lot of your episodes. We talked about the shoe. So kudos to you, man. Like, love what you're doing. We just talked about before we started about the importance of just the awareness of mentality and things of that nature. So love what you're doing and really proud of you, man. Like,
thanks, man.
I've seen you in many different phases of life. Super proud of where you're at, what you're doing. So good for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Sure.
Thanks for saying yes to coming on and joining the mission. That's what this whole thing's about. So every time somebody says yes, especially if there's someone I have a good relationship with, it's humbling,
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Sure.
Golly, Nick, we can go so many different directions here on our podcast because the conversation we had before we even started recording, we're very lined up in the mental game. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of organization, a lot of understanding to be that way. But for guys like you and me, it's taken several years, and now we can kind of put this stuff together to see what works on the daily. So tell me about your upbringing and take us right up into military days, and then take us right into your first inkling of basketball coaching.
All right. Upbringing, 5 brothers and sisters, 2 great parents, mom and dad, a lot of love in the house. I remember when we moved to Independence, I was 9 years old, about to be 10. Completely different world from what I started with. Grew up in a private school, ended up in a public school. But, dude, I tell people all the time, like, I had a great childhood. We talked about it before. Coming on, had everything I ever needed and most of what I wanted. And so it really shaped me into what I wanted my vision of life to be, which we talked about. And I'm living out that vision right now with an amazing wife that has blessed me with a lot of support and love, 2 awesome kids. So that was my vision as a kid of what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be. And thankfully, through a lot of hard work, a lot of challenges and adversity, I've been able to live out my dream. But growing up, obviously went to Simon Kenton, met the
Go Nears.
Met the celebrity podcaster Mike Kennedy. Great dude, super hooper, could shoot the lights out.
Y'all hear it right
you
now.
were
Keep
shooting
going, Nick.
You were shooting the lights out before shooting the lights out was popular.
Keep going, son. Me and Skip Goalie.
Skip Goalie, that's a throwback name. So for me, my brother went into the military. My brother Cory was a huge part of my life, and had never like considered the military. Like, always thought it'd be cool to serve my country, but I thought I would be the typical kid, high school, college, get a job somewhere, do something, or get into construction, which is what my dad did. But my brother went in the military very young age, and I remember when I was a senior in high school, he was 18 years old. He had a house. He had a car. He was getting paid like legitimate money. And I'm like, who wouldn't want that? Like, what 18-year-old wouldn't want that? And so I was like, oh, maybe the military's the way for me. And ended up joining the Air Force and got to travel around a little bit, do some different things. And honestly, the military and the discipline, the structure, the organization is something that I needed in my life that I didn't know I needed. Ooh. The old saying of like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
I was a kid that always wanted to, I I was a kid that never wanted to disappoint my parents. Like I was afraid to get in trouble. And so like I was always pretty stuck to like whatever I had to do when I was a kid. But as far as the professional part goes, like I never understood like the importance of organization, discipline, punctuality, structure, and the military brought that. Like literally every single phase of that is teaching you how to be really buttoned up, and I think I've taken that military perspective into teaching as well as coaching. And sometimes it can be a little bit rigid. I'm very honest with myself. We talked about, self-awareness, and I'm aware of the way that can come off sometimes, but I feel like you have more of an opportunity to be successful when you can be not only aware, but when you have a plan, when you have a blueprint, you have a plan, and you find a way to try to execute that plan. I think it brings a lot of stability. And so, that's kind of how I got into coaching. I think I played a lot of like cross base intramural stuff, and one of my first sergeants was a former Division I college basketball player, and his knowledge of the game was insane. And so that before I got out of the military, that's where I was like, oh, like maybe coaching would be cool. And so, I got out, and my cousin Sean Murphy, shout out to Sean.
Shout out Sean Murphy.
He was coaching an AAU basketball team with a bunch of Connor kids, some Ryle kids, some kids from Holmes. And he brought me in. And again, I didn't know what I didn't know. I was so green. I thought I knew a lot about basketball. But, you get thrust into the games and practices and, with high school kids, and you're like, oh, like maybe I don't know what I don't know. So yeah, man, that's where it all started. It started with, NKY Bulldogs, AAU. And then honestly, like one of the things I love about coaching is like, you can start anywhere and end anywhere. It's up to you. It's kind of like life and mentality. Like I started as a 4th grade basketball coach, man.
Yeah, that's so cool.
At St. Pius. And, here I am today, living out a dream, coaching an amazing group of kids with amazing families, amazing administrators at Ryle High School. So
yeah.
It's been great.
It's been fun to watch.
I
it really
appreciate that,
has.
man.
Like your kid, you have great kids. You really do. I know I'm not around it a ton, but I watch from afar, and I see what they post, and I see they're good kids.
Dude.
It's just solid. I've seen that group when they were little.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't know if we can shout out names specifically, but
do whatever you want to.
But we have a point guard right now that you are the one, Mike. This kid was in 4th grade. He's now a junior. It was our first year at Ryle together, and we're at youth basketball camp. Something that I think that me, you, and Belcher all really enjoyed. Like we really loved camp, and we're sitting there and we're looking around, and I remember he and I were talking, and you came up and you're like, you guys got to go over and see this kid. And we're like, what? Where is he? Because we were in the high school gym, and you're like, no, he's in the other gym. We're like,
he's in the small gym.
We're like, what are you talking about? And you're like, oh, he's going to be a 5th grader. And we're like, what are you talking about? Like, we're trying to focus on high school basketball in the high school gym. And you're like, dude, this kid is unbelievable. And so, we go over and see this kid, and, the same kid that started JV as an 8th grader and started varsity as a freshman. And, but you saw that from very early on. So kudos to you for your awareness and your understanding of the game and knowing what you're looking at.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Can we name drop? Are you allowed? Are we good with it? No.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine. I just didn't know what the protocol was.
Oh yeah. AC, Anthony Capola.
Yes.
That's who we're talking about. Let's just stay on him for just a second. And I don't want to highlight other kids over others, but it was neat to watch journalists post on Twitter or on X like live tweeting games and saying the Capola kid's tough, like saying this Capola kid, you know, and that's what I appreciate that shout out, because when I saw him, he was rocking Bearcats gear and just shredding people.
Still loves his Bearcats.
Does he still love his Bearcats?
Yeah.
Dude, he was just shredding kids, and I'm like, this kid's gonna be really good.
Yeah,
and the stuff that, like, you know, it's all about Jimmy's and Joe's, but he had those intangibles and that knack and just the. I'm like, man, this kid could be really good.
Yeah.
We had a blast watching him and all the kids the rest of the camp, and then from there on.
It's amazing that, you know, you can see those qualities in such a young person at the time, but those are the same qualities that are still exuded today. You know, the leadership, the discipline, the focus, the work ethic. You know, we always say in our basketball program, the work works. Like, there's no guarantee of success no matter how much work you put into it, but there is guaranteed failure when you quit doing something, when you quit working, you know. And so
that's really good.
You know, we say that a lot, like, the work works. There's no guarantee of when your success is going to come, but if you stay at it, it will happen eventually, you know, versus if you quit, it's never going to happen. And so he exudes that. And Mike, you hit the nail on the head. You know, I could sit here and give you names of you know,
the whole roster.
10, 12 other kids, the whole roster. Like, over the summer, you know, we have 16 kids on our you know, varsity roster, kids that sit the varsity bench. And then, you know, we have 22 kids in the program, JV and varsity. And every single one of them showed up over the summer. We went 4 days a week, 2 days of open gyms for 2 hours, and then 2 days a week at Neville's. Shout out Neville's. Everybody shouts out Neville's.
Hey, Jordan, when you coming on, shout out Neville's.
Jordan's the man. Jordan, you need to come on, man. You'd be great at this. But they all showed up. You know, it was the whole team. And the crazy part is, like, they go to Jordan's and it's hard. We talk about handling hard better.
Boy.
Like, you know, it's hard. It is a challenge. And I go to every single one of these sessions, and I sit and I watch my kids, because I learn a lot about them through seeing them struggle and through seeing them push themselves and exert themselves. And they all do it. You said it. And you know, you've been there. You were, you know, you helped Coach Erickson as a freshman coach, and then obviously you were the head JV coach and varsity assistant. We have phenomenal kids at Ryle, and honestly, you get phenomenal kids from phenomenal families, right? Great parents, they set a great example for our kids. The work ethic is instilled in them from a very young age. So it definitely helps the coach, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, I definitely didn't want to highlight one over the others, but that is one of our stories we talk about often. It's just like, so when I get to go watch you guys play, it's cool. And it's nice that you guys, you know, kudos to the football team finishing their season. It's nice to have Landon back. I saw a lot of cool things with just like your kids. You just said it. 16 of them showed up every time.
Every time.
Dude, bench presence. Like, it's just, you see that now. You can see all of it. Landon's still in the football season. He's at a game the other night, fully invested. And he's not playing, but fully invested.
Yeah.
And that's the things that are just the beautiful thing to watch teamwork go. Like, when you're working together towards one goal, one collective goal, but you have 16 different individual personalities, you know? And when you go to work and make that mesh, it's cool. It's fun.
Landon, the second game of the year against Holy Cross, man, this is one thing that made me so happy internally, but also, like, sitting back. So we go to Holy Cross, and Nate Virax, Gavin Lyons, and Landon Lorms are gearing up for a state championship game. And what a phenomenal season they had. And it was so fun to, like, follow them. Great kids, awesome football players. But I'm sitting there talking with my coaching staff, and I see Lyons and Virax and Lorms all walk in together. And I'm like, wow. Like, dude. And I was so like happy to see that I walked up to him. I'm like, guys, can I get a picture with you all? Like, I want to get a picture with like the state semifinal winners and you know, guys that are heading to the state championship. But mostly I was just so proud that there was such a connection that was built there that those guys were like, you know what, we're going to go support our teammates on the basketball team.
Very cool.
And there's a really cool picture from the region last year of our bench. And I always tell Nate and Gavin Lyons, they were the facilitators of our bench presence. Those guys, you know, they come in and they get people going. And I would tell them all the time, like, hey, get this bench going. And they would do it. And they've been phenomenal. And here they are one day out from playing in the state championship.
I know.
Is that incredible?
That is incredibly incredible. Yes.
I said this to him in the locker room.
It tells you everything you need to know about character.
Oh,
who they are.
Who they are and who their families are and how they feel about each other. You know, we talked about like your perspective, right? Like your perspective on life is shaped as a young person. And, you know, so those guys and the way that they carry themselves is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And now they're like reshaping my perspective on possibilities and what to expect out of young people because they show up, they work hard, they're dedicated, and it's really cool to see.
Setting a good standard for this squad rolling through.
Yeah.
Others can just follow right along suit.
Yeah. And, you know, you brought up Landon, you know, if I could, you know, a lot of people see Landon on the field. I saw a tweet or a post or something on Landon Lorms yesterday, and it said, Landon Lorms is just the type of athlete that you can give him the ball and get out of the way. And he's a super athlete, but Mike, what people don't know about him, last year I get a text message randomly on a Sunday, and it says, hey, coach, are you home? Yeah, I'm home. Are your kids there? I'm like, this is weird. Yeah, my kids are home. He goes, hey, I am going to come over dressed like the Easter Bunny for your kids. And I'm like, seriously? And so here he comes walking up the driveway. And you know Carter. Carter was so excited.
Was Carter fired up?
Mom, Dad, the Easter Bunny's in our driveway. And, you know, Landon comes up. He's got a gift for him. He gives him like a Easter calendar or something. And he comes in my living room and he sits down and he's, you know, interacting with them. And I'm like, you know, these are the things about, yeah, like these are the things about these kids that people don't understand. Like, yeah, they're great athletes and they're also great students, but like, they're just good people, man. They're good people. And that matters in today's day and age.
Dude, it matters. It's the most important thing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Landon, that's cool. That being a good person, I try to tell people it's not as hard as you think, but just those acts and those kind of things, it's attraction rather than promotion. You know, it's those kind of acts that happen genuinely out of a genuine, authentic heart. And they do those things without looking for anything in return. To get that at a young age,
it's special.
It's pretty cool.
Special.
Yeah, shout out family. And Landon, you know, that's cool, buddy. That's cool. Congrats to you on your awards at the football season and everything. I mean, good luck on the season going forward, but that's the stuff we got to talk about.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It is.
I can imagine Carter, dude.
Oh, dude.
He's so funny.
Carter was so happy.
He's so funny.
And then when he left, he was like, well, when he left, Carter goes, that was a little creepy. But you know, like just the fact that he now like has that experience in his frame of reference, and you know, Carter doesn't know it now, but like when he does find out that was Landon, because you know, Carter looks up to all these guys. Like,
oh, I bet
we talk about it after the games. Like, Dad, I saw this or saw that, or you know, when they come up and talk to him, he appreciates that. But like one day when he finds out that was Landon, he's going to be like, oh, like that kid that I was around that, maybe I looked up to or that I cheered for.
Extra cool.
Like, yeah, that kid like went out of his way for me. And that's going to what, Mike? That's going to pay it forward, right?
Yep.
Because Carter, you said it's, Carter's going to have a frame of reference of like, well, when I get older, no matter what I'm doing, I should pay it forward and help out younger people too.
Yeah, man.
And I think that's important to pass on as a young athlete.
That's great. You guys are doing great things. It makes me think of a story. Exactly. That's almost exactly what Carter will do as he gets older, and seeing and remembering that, and that'll click. I remember Nate Browning was just on the other day, and we were at the same UK basketball camp like 3 years in a row back when we were 96, 97, 98. And one thing will always resonate with me. I played one-on-one with Anthony Epps. It was a blast.
Nice.
Beat him. He probably let me. Whatever. I was spraying. But
that's what you did, Mike.
Dude, that's all I could do. Skip goalie had to show me that. So we go to Kerwin 1, back to the dorms, just overnight camp for the week. And I'm rooming with a kid from Texas. And after lights out, knock on the door, Ron Mercer, Derek Anderson.
Oh, how cool.
With pizza.
Wow.
And they came in and hung out, and they were my idols.
Yeah.
There's my signatures are on the shirt right back there. They were my idols.
Love it.
So here I was like looking to get in lines to go get these guys autographs and stuff, and you stand in lines with the masses. Then they showed up at the room. And the conversations when I was a kid, like, it was awesome. It was all basketball. It was all Kentucky stuff, like, know, and it was genuine. It wasn't fake. They were having fun doing it with us.
Oh, they loved it.
They had a blast.
Dude, I mean, you know what it's like working with kids at kids camp.
It's
like,
so fun.
Yeah, they're so cool, and, you can figure out so much about them. And, like, dude, I guarantee you they love that. They probably, that was probably their idea. To go and do that. And they're like, hey, this kid, he just beat Anthony Epps. Like, we better make sure we get him some pizza. So
all 3 threes from the top of the point.
I love it, man. I believe it. Top of the key shooter.
Yeah, buddy.
You were a man before your time.
God, I love it. Thanks. Don't make me don't stroke my ego like this, Nick.
Also, shout out to Nate Browning.
Yeah.
Awesome guy, awesome coach.
Good dude.
Yeah.
And that's when I bring all you guys on, that's what we're going to show. Dude, everybody has their own
the 33rd
methods,
man.
Dude, gauntlet.
So
gauntlet.
He probably won't remember this, but when I first came to Ryle, my first year with you and Belcher, coming from Newport, Coach Snap, he kind of he was a huge mentor for me, a huge piece of my coaching career. And we had a lot of battles. We had a pretty good team. And Cooper obviously had a great team, Kunkel and the McNeils and all them. And, it was a war a lot of times for 3 years, Newport and Cooper. And when I came to Ryle and my very first game at Cooper, Sully walks up to me, and I remember it was super loud atmosphere. Like, it was Ryle Cooper. It was, that's a big time game. And he kind of walks up to me and looks at me, and he's like, welcome to the 33rd, baby. And at that time, I didn't really know what that meant, like, it was what it was. But, here I am 6 years later, and I'm like, dude, the 33rd, great coaches, great teams, great players. And it is a grind every single year.
It is, man.
It's
incredibly tough.
We talked about football earlier. When you play in those 33rd games, you better buckle up your chin strap, man, because you're going to get it every single night.
And it's high energy, high emotion, high focus, and it's got to happen all the way from the tip on.
Yeah.
Because it can swing and change at any given moment.
Yep. And, game
of runs, man.
A game of runs.
Well prepared, as prepared as you can be. And it's a game of runs.
And it's funny how, like, a game of runs and emotions like go hand in hand, right? Like emotions are a roller coaster ride.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
just like a basketball game is, it's a game of runs. It's a roller coaster ride. I always think of basketball as this string of adversarial events.
Yeah.
And the team that is most mentally prepared to handle those adversarial events or handle the majority of them is most likely to win.
Yeah.
And so we focus so much in our program about mentality. Like everything that we do, doing hard things helps you do more hard things. The work works. And then, our 3 pillars of the Raider Way. The first 2 are work hard and be tough. And when we talk about those things, we lay them out. Like, what does work hard look like? When we talk about it, what does be tough look like? It's not just physical toughness. It's poise, it's emotion, it's poise, it's confidence, it's handling emotion.
Yeah, composure.
Yeah. And then the last piece is love each other and love the game. And how do you handle the roller coaster of emotions best when you're a cohesive unit? If you're handling it 16 varsity guys at a time, you're going to be much more likely to be successful than if you're scattered all over the place.
That's really good.
So,
okay, 3 pillars one more time, because that was awesome.
Yeah. So
Pillar 1.
The Raider Way, TRW, Pillar 1, work hard.
Okay.
And what does that look like, Mike? It means that you show up. You're there. You're not just going through the motions. You are practicing with purpose. You're at Neville's with purpose. You are in film sessions with purpose.
Okay.
And then be tough. We tried to keep it simple. Be tough. Mentally, how do you handle these set of challenges that are going to come your way? And they're going to come your way. Life in basketball. So one of my favorite sayings in almost everything that I do, I'll always say, life in basketball. In my practice notes, I'll write down like the quote of the day, right? And I'll put life in basketball because it attaches to the game and to everything you do outside. So be tough, mentally. How do we handle setbacks? How do we handle runs? We had a really tough game yesterday. We had a tough conversation in the locker room afterwards. Sure. And, just like the game is a game of runs, the season is a season of runs, highs and lows, peaks and valleys. And we had a tough game yesterday, and we did not expect it to go that way. And so how are we going to handle that? And it's exciting for me to see starting tomorrow on Monday, man. Like, how are my guys going to come in? And knowing who they are, they'll come in tomorrow. They'll be ready to go. They'll be strong mentally. So, and then physically tough. You know better than anybody. You got to be able to play through the tired. I saw on a podcast one time that high achievers better expect to be tired because you're outworking everybody else, and you can't outwork everybody else if you're not putting in the time. And so
that's really good.
You got to learn how to handle the tired as well. So that's part of our be tough. And then the last one is love each other and love the game.
What a way to bring it all the way around.
Yeah, because, and I'll be very honest with you, Mike, like there's a lot of teams, hey, put your hand in here, family on 3, right? Like 1, 2, 3, family. Yeah. But to me, those are just words. Right? Like it's easy to say you're a family, but a family is love, right? And if you love each other, you're going to show up, you're going to be on time, you're going to give your best effort for your teammate. But also
it makes it meaningful.
It makes it so meaningful, man. We talk all the time about providing a great experience. Even when you were there, like the things that you probably remember about your high school playing days, not a lot of those are on the court. They're in the locker room. They're in the dinners. They're in the team gathering. Yeah. What did the guy from Boston College say when his season ended? They asked him what he was going to miss most. He was like a 5th-year senior, and he said, going out to eat with my teammates. Ooh. And here's what's funny about that. The other night, we're leaving practice, and I'm driving down 42 headed towards home, and I'm driving and I kind of look over and I see what I called the Jeep crew. It was like 4 or 5 of our guys that were leaving practice, and they were all heading to Chipotle to eat. It's like, how easy would it be to just everybody get in your car and go home? You know, practice is over. We go 5 to 7. We go really hard. And it'd be so easy to get in your car. I'm tired. Boom, head home, right? It's like, no, those 5 guys all got in the car together.
Yeah, I love it.
They went and had dinner.
That's what it's all about.
And so, yeah, man,
So
love each other. I think, yeah.
That's the thing is they're getting it. God, and that's the joy. That's the joyful part of life too, man. Like that's hard to do. Like, I mean, you can't really teach that and force people to do something like that.
Yeah.
That's been that cohesion of the team. I mean, and the care, the camaraderie, the love, the support. It shows on the court too. You can really see it. I don't care about, beginning of the season, I was just like, I'm not taking anything for face value, but these kids are tough. Like,
they're tough.
Amazing.
You
and
have
they move the ball well. I haven't looked at your team assists or anything, but they move the ball well. And it's just like, golly, it's fluid.
Yeah.
DeGroff, like, it's fun. So you can tell that it does reflect back to the court.
Yeah. Well, my coaching staff does a great job too of, really like talking about moving the basketball, finding the open man. We've said multiple times, we have, 7 guys that could score 15 points a game. But the only way you get there is by sharing the ball on the court. And the only way you get there to that cohesion where you have this ball in your hands, and what kid doesn't want to score, but you have this ball in your hands and you're willing to move it to the next guy because his shot looks better than yours, and so to me, that all starts with our coaching staff. I have a great staff, and they do a really good job of, honing in on the little conversations on the sidelines, bringing groups of guys together and talking about, certain things, defining roles. We have another great player, John DeGroff, who actually lives in my neighborhood. He goes fishing with Carter from time to time, like, awesome kid. And a couple years ago, we have him fill out this survey at the end of the year. And I think we did something like 5 team outings in year 1 to try to foster the relationship, 4 or 5 different things. And I thought that was a good number. That was probably the most that I had done within a given team. I'm like, oh, this is cool, And on the survey at the end of the year, it was, what is one thing that you would like to see more of from the coaching staff? And his response was, plan more team outings. And I'm like, dude, like, here I am. We talked about perspective, right? Here I am thinking, hey, 4 or 5 team outings, that's great. That's the most, I've ever been a part of. And he wants more. Yeah, I'm like, so that tells you where that kid is and how he feels about his teammates. And he's willing to come in, do the work,
Focal flip.
The focal flip, man. And
that's the focal flip.
Yeah. Just being willing to hang out, like, give up your time outside of basketball to hang out with your teammates. And, it's like what we said about those 3 guys earlier, coming to the game, knowing they were preparing for a state championship game. That's special. Yeah. And shout out to those guys, man. Like, our older kids, our juniors and seniors, they've all been playing varsity basketball since they were young. Yep. When we came in as a staff, we saw the talent that we had at the younger ages, and we tried really hard to incorporate them into everything we were doing. And shout out to them for buying in and bringing the team together, and doing the focal flip, man. The focal flip of Ryle basketball. Yeah. Just we always say building an empire, and that's what those kids are trying to do. So
you guys are doing a great job. Everybody sees it too. I mean, and that's what's cool. It's just that it's not, you see it. You got to go out and see the product, and you can see it, and what you're doing outside and off the court. It's just cool. And then to see player-led stuff, that is so humbling to see. I can see why you'd be humbled by that. So let's transition in a couple of things. So when you first became head coach, I know you. I know your brother Cory, and I know you love UK basketball. So the reason you became a coach was because you've always loved the game of basketball.
Oh yeah,
you and Cory both. So you first become head coach, man. I know you. A lot of folks don't. Okay, so we have such great conversations about just being strong, mentally pushing through, and you're a passionate dude. Like you're so passionate.
I am.
So when the game, like, and it's not that you're hyper focused. You're so focused, but like, I went and watched your game the other day. I don't expect you to come say hi to me after you coach a basketball game. Okay.
I felt so bad.
Listen, dude, you need to chill on this, because every time I've sent a message, he apologizes like it could be after a loss. It could even be after a win. I have watched Nick, and he is so into his staff, his teammate, his players, his family right behind the bench, the scorekeeper, the stats, Pete Coleman. He is so invested into what's happening within that 32 minutes, you know? And so you don't ever have to apologize. You're a coach, and you're doing your thing, and I know you love it. But here's what I want everybody to understand. That's you. That you are, when you clock in, man.
Sometimes to a fault. Yeah.
I see it. And that's what I want you to chat about, because like I know you. And then when I first got to see you and that came out, like that passion, it's just like, wow, you are so passionate about it. So what was that like when you first became like head coach? Okay. And you've got like all these other tenured coaches. You've been coaching as assistant and all this stuff. You've been in the game for a minute. But when you first become the head coach, you're passionate. You're trying to build the program, right?
Right.
And you've got officials. What's that? And you're first now head coaching in the 33rd. You got your taste of assistant. Mm-hmm. What was that like for you?
First of all, shout out Pete Coleman. He's the man. Also,
we got you, Pete.
You know what I love about what you just said right there, Mike, is like you talked about my family sitting behind the bench. Like everything I do is for my family, like my immediate family. Dude, my wife's grandmother comes to every game.
I know. She
texted me last night after our game, like she wants to know. Like those are the things that drive me, man. Like, I know,
she is there with Danielle. Every game.
Dude, her and Danielle, like the first night of the season, dude, it was a Monday night. And they travel to South Oldham, an hour away. It's cool. It's snow and icing out, and they made the trek. Like they wouldn't miss it. I am so blessed with the love and support of my family, and like that's what drives me at the end of the day. Like I don't ever want to be seen as, everybody's going to fail, but I don't ever want to be seen as a quitter. I don't want to be seen as somebody who's going to go only halfway. If we're going to build it, we're going to do everything we can to build it. But one of the reasons that it bothers me is like, dude, I have legitimately always appreciated you. Like when you and I were going for this job, as assistants, and you as the JV head coach, like you called me and you were like, dude, like this could be really special. There's so many good kids at Ryle. We can bring them back and we can do this. And like, it was a way for us to reconnect. Yeah. And that's cool. And I always appreciated you. So like when I saw you at the game the other night, I was so in tune with what was going on around me. And I didn't even know you were there. And then as we're walking out, you were like, hey, and I turned around, I didn't even know who was saying hey to me. And I saw you and I was kind of up, and then you had kind of walked on, and I was like, afterwards, that's all I could think about. It's like, man, God, like, I should have stopped and talked to him, but I was so like trying to get to my team. We had just lost a really tough game, and that was a game that we expect to win every game. And so just so locked in that moment. But just to answer your question, sorry to take such
it's good. I wanted to lay it out because I want people to understand who you are. And for me, mine was just to say, hey, hi, love you. I'm out. I was here, watched the game. And I'm not going to blow you up, but for that game specifically, when the game was over, like you have a team to address in the locker room. But what I thought was unique was watching you right there with your staff.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you guys were talking about. When I go to games, if people go with me, it's sometimes here and there. A lot of times I go by myself.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything better than sitting watching a live basketball game by yourself?
I love it, dude. I'm a weirdo, man, but I love it.
I could tell, like, you went to one game me and you talked about, and I asked you how it went, and you sent me a boatload of stats, and you said something to the effect of, like, how's this report? And I was like, so much more than what I expected, but, like, dude, it was so...
I see it differently, man.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to say, like, comforting or, like, what it was, but, like, the fact that, like, that's something that I would do. Like, I love sitting and watching games. Like, I went and scouted a game last week, and I'm like, it was just like my sanctuary, man. Like, I was sitting there, like, just watching everything I could watch. And I'm not going to lie, Mike, I thought about what you sent me.
Yeah, keep going. I'm not going to fix this battery. Keep going.
I'm
not going to lie about what you sent me.
Thought about what you sent me, and I'm like, yeah, like, this is so analytical, and, Mike sent me something similar. And so, yeah, it was cool. But I wanted to get back to just what you asked about when I first got the job. I actually got a piece of advice from a really, really good Northern Kentucky head coach. When I got the job, I reached out to all of the coaches that I respect, appreciate. I called Snap, obviously. I called Steiner. I called Steve Fromeyer, several others. And Steve Fromeyer said, do it your way. Irregrettably, do it your way. And that is something that has stuck with me. And he said, the reason I tell you this is because he said, if you do it your way and it doesn't work, at least you will know and have no regrets about the way you did it. He said, if you try to fall in line with other people and their norms and it doesn't work, you're going to have regrets for a lifetime.
Wow, that is such good advice.
Life in basketball, right?
Basketball. Fro said that?
Yeah. Fro said, he said, do it your way. His exact phrasing to me, I actually wrote it down when I was on the phone with him. He said, do it your way. Irregrettably, do it your way. And after our conversation, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about, well, what does that mean? And it's unapologetically, I always say this phrase, protect your peace, right? Like, mentality is your peace. Yeah. If you do things your way with no regrets, you're not going to have to sit and wonder. We talked about this before we jumped on, like you called it stealth self-reflection. And I love that phraseology. If you can sit back and reflect on things that you did your way, then it's more explainable. You can hold yourself accountable. Like, hey, you made this decision. You got nobody to blame but yourself.
Yeah.
So there's the accountability piece there. But also, with everything that goes on around us today, with social media and how easy it is to, get information, see information that's not true, whatever. My thing was always just, I wanted to do it my way. And if it works, that's awesome. Like, I was able to impact and benefit a lot of people along the way. And ultimately, that's why I teach and that's why I coach.
Yeah.
That's why I love being a dad. Like, what benefit can I have? But the other part of it is, if it doesn't work, or someday when it comes to an end, at least I know that I gave it my all.
Yeah.
I gave it my best, and I did the best that I could do. And so I don't have any regrets. And I don't want to have any regrets, man. I think that's where we talk about mentality. I think that's where people kind of fall into darkness, right? Like, if you do things that later on you regret, it kind of weighs on the heart and the mind forever.
Yeah.
And if you don't really have any way to fix it, it leaves you without any closure.
Yeah, there's no solution.
Yeah.
You're stuck.
So do it your way, irregrettably, do it your way. And that is something that sticks with me even still today, 3-4 years later, man.
Yeah.
So
I just think it's cool. I always wondered what it was like. I'm like, here's Nick. I was like, Nick's going in head coaching. You know, you've got a lot of different personalities and stuff coaching against, and like, just coaches are competitors, dude.
yeah.
We love people. We're all about developing good human beings.
Yes.
Period. But we're competitors.
Yeah.
And like, when you clock in, clock out, man, ball goes up. That's like, I would be friends with people from other teams all the time. But when it was time to tip it up, it's time to play.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed watching coaches. I just enjoy it. And a lot of them, because I know a lot of you guys, but it's just so fun to watch you all in your element, doing your thing. And then I was sitting here like, man, Nick's first year, I was like, I wonder if he like felt like he was misunderstood, or if like it was really more challenging for him with him being passionate and like people misunderstanding that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When you're moving, so like, I always wondered what that was like for you, because you've had this chip on the shoulder type thing. You've always, like, it's just, we've talked about how we string along and connect the dots on stuff, and you've been able to do that.
Yeah.
So
Honestly,
what was that like?
Coach Souter and I have had this conversation of like the way that both of us came up. You know, he coached middle school and he coached AAU, and he was in the high school as an assistant. You know, went after a couple head coaching jobs a couple times, decided that he was going to remain an assistant to achieve his goal of becoming the head coach of Campbell County.
Yeah.
And shout out to him, you
Yeah,
know,
that's
making
my boy.
state the first year. It's amazing.
That's my dude,
that.
man.
I love that guy.
Yeah. Keaton introduced us at first.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
he did. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. So, you know, you asked, you know, what it was like, or if you thought that I felt like I was misunderstood. I don't feel like I was misunderstood. But just because I had been an assistant under Snap and under Belcher.
Oh, that's a good point too.
You know, so a lot of the coaches and people around at least saw a familiar face, probably.
Yeah.
But you know, the way that there's a lot of times I look at it, and I don't take this opportunity for granted that, you know, our athletic director and principal Matt Schaefer, great guy, gave me. Like, but there is a sense that I don't feel like anything has ever been handed to me in coaching. You know, like I said, I started off as an assistant on a sophomore AAU basketball team. I did that. I coached 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, jumped to 8th grade at Walton, back to 7th grade at Summit View. And then I was a JV assistant at Newport in my first year, actually under my cousin who had less coaching experience than I had. And then to me, it was, you know, I wanted, once I got into the high school, I knew that this was something that would give me an avenue to coach the game I love, to help people, to impart some of those things like that, you know, doing hard things, and the work works. But there's also a sense of like, I don't know that I would describe it as like a chip on the shoulder, but like, I feel like I can do anything that I put my mind to.
Just a hunger.
Yeah, just a hunger, man. Like it's all in the Jordan documentary.
That's a pretty cool way to put it.
He talks about, you know, how like the desire to win is less than the hatred to lose. And like, for me, life in basketball, right? Like I put so much into this, and my coaching staff, Jalen Clark, Tony Walsberger, Josh Putoff, Ian Bowman, John Erickson, they put so much into this. And all of our kids, the ones we've mentioned and the ones that we haven't mentioned, put so much into this. We all work so hard together. We take time away from our families, from the other things that we love and enjoy, to try and all come together and do something special. And I want to do everything I can to achieve that, and help my team achieve that. And you know, And so it's not as much of a chip on the shoulder. I try not to listen to the outside noise. Like, you win, people are going to blow you up. You lose, well, you know, you're not what you thought you were. But Belcher used to always say it best: you're never as good as they say you are, and you're never as bad as they say you are. It's just the courage to continue that matters. And I think that's what drives me, is trying to do the best I can for those people around me, because I don't want to let anybody down. You know, it's like I said, we talked so much about perspectives earlier in kids, and I told you, like, I never wanted to let my parents down. Mm-hmm. I never wanted to get in trouble as a kid. And I feel like it's the same way now. And it starts with my family, my wife, my kids, my wife's grandma, Grandy, we call her, Danielle's grandma. But then it extends into my coaching staff, my players, their families. You know, I don't want to let their families down. They put a lot into it, a lot of time, driving, buying Gatorades, dinners. Yeah. You know, I don't want to let them down either. And so that's what fuels me personally, and hopefully that's the driving force behind the team.
I love that, Nick. Let's end with one thing, okay? A lot of times, people that do not want to let everyone down end up assuming a weight that becomes too heavy to carry. I've seen it time and time again. So when I go to ask folks on the podcast, it's because I see things that are different, you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, in seeing that, because you're high energy, before the podcast, you talked about something that you do every morning. You know, I want to know what it is that you do to help kind of settle you or level you in the midst of trying to be responsible for not letting all these people down internally.
Yeah. So I've spent a lot of time over the last few years just constantly trying to better myself. I think first of all, it starts with exercise. I exercise a lot. But we talked about before we started, every morning, every single morning of my life, I wake up and first thing I do is hydrate, 16 ounces of water. And then I do breath work. So I sit in the moment and I just breathe, try to compartmentalize everything. You know, this is what home looks like. This is what work looks like. This is what basketball looks like. And when I'm at home, this is what I need to be. Am I always successful at it? No. When I'm at work, this is what I need to be. When I'm at basketball, this is what I need to be. And sometimes they overlap and interchange, and I carry the weight from one to the other. But I do a lot of breath work in the morning. I would say it's like, well, what do they call it? When you meditation, similar to meditation, but I really try to focus in on the breathing. Somewhere along the way, I learned or read that the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease, and so I started researching that, and I felt like the more that I intentionally breathe and take deep breaths, and then I found like, oh, I feel healthier. I feel better. I feel more clarity. And so I would sit in that every morning, you know, and then I would have my coffee, no social media, no phone. And I would just sit and plan out my day. Like, here's what I need to do. Here's, you know, what I need to try to get done. Here's where we need to improve. So that's where every day starts for me. Wow. And that's where, like you said, to me,
how much time do you spend in that, you think, in that moment?
So usually...
So you got the exercise in there too. How much time do you spend in the exercise to start? 16 ounces of water. Yeah, how much time do you spend in that to start your day?
So I don't actually start the day with the exercise. I start the day with the water and the breath work. And that's honestly probably 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
But that's, you know,
that's cool.
That's 15 minutes just to me. You know, that's my 15 minutes. And I feel like I need that every day. It started off as like a intermittent thing. But then it became like it was making me feel like I was feeling good. I was feeling clarity.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah.
The intermittent piece all the way to connecting the dots and enforcing it.
Connecting the dots, man. Gosh, you keep saying that is like so true when we talk about compartmentalizing stuff.
Yes.
It's like from here to there to there. And
keep going.
So yeah, probably 15 minutes in the breath work and the trying to just compartmentalize. And then I do anywhere between 45 and 60 minutes of exercise, running and lifting weights and stuff, at least 5 days a week, or at least I try. Sometimes during the season that gets a little harder to do. But you know, that's to me, self-care, probably even if I wasn't coaching, you know, self-care is super important to me. You know, I try to stay very hydrated. I try to exercise. I do the breath work. I try to be very organized, disciplined, try to make sure I'm communicating everything well.
Yeah.
And then, you know, my family helps keep me grounded, man. Like my wife is awesome, and she's not afraid to, you know, tell me when I need to have a focal flip, right? She's not afraid.
Shout out Danielle. She's amazing.
She's
a good one, man. Very cool.
Yeah. I have a question for you before we end.
Okay.
So if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So you have this podcast, Focal Flip. You got the shoe right here, which is what I said. Like every time I think of the Focal Flip, I think of the shoe. You know, that's kind of a metaphor, right? Like the shoe's on the other foot. So Mike, you've come a long way. And you've had a lot of your adversarial challenges in life, and, you know, some of the things that you're doing. And I think about you often and kind of what you're doing, where you're at. What was your focal flip, man? What was your, you know, from where you were a couple years ago mentally? There was a reason you started this podcast. There's a reason you're helping, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of people. What was the flip for you?
Oh man, the flip was the first time authentically taking a look at myself. The first time waving a white flag and saying, I can't do this thing on my own. I'm being fake. The big flip was the last time that I went to treatment. It almost killed me, you know. First time I went to treatment, I went in, tried to work on myself. 4th step inventory, I quit. And I did it for years. Every time I had to take a hard look at myself, I just quit. Last time in treatment, it was rough. There's a small percentage that actually succeed, and I wanted to be a part of that small percentage.
The competitor in you.
Yeah. Everybody kept saying, you know, I saw where I was at, and then I just saw issues with it, and I was 53 shots of Fireball deep. I had to have nurses help me to walk. I was a shell of myself. I've told people before, I'm too scared to take my own life. Cool if I didn't wake up. But to get pancreatitis and all that other stuff and then relapse in 30 days, I had to be like, why? Why am I doing this? What is wrong? And that was it. Then I decided in that moment I wanted to be a part of the small percentage. And I knew I was going to have to crack through some belief structures, open my mind up to stuff. I tell everybody, honesty, open-minded willingness, HOW, that's how to do life. And it has to be authentic at every level. If it's not authentic and you're a box checker, it's never going to work. You're going to end up having to peel the onion. But that moment, man, when you're in treatment, some folks go on 72-hour holds or whatever. You can go in there, detox yourself, and then decide if you want to get rehab right there. And then people will go, 6-month programs, 12-month programs. But while you're in there, you've got 3 to 4 days of getting medically cleaned up, because I was, susceptible to seizure, all kinds of stuff, wondering how I got myself here. Mm-hmm. Someone looked like they had it all together. But then I looked at the 4th step of Alcoholics Anonymous differently. Alcoholics Anonymous differently. And I was making the whole process hard on myself. And so it was like, no, you need to learn you and be open to everybody else. So at that moment, it was, they were asking me to read the first 164 pages of the big book. I couldn't read. So I had to find ways to like fight this disease, like hardcore. And the disease was in my head the whole time, you know? And so what changed for me, Nick, was when I finally started asking why. And it's the greatest question to ever exist.
True.
And I just saying, I would do this. Okay, why? Well, here's why I would do this. Okay, well, why? And then that was the peeling the onion thing for me. And when I went through the process, I realized it wasn't as painful because I surrounded myself with the right people to do it. And then like, okay, now we can figure out a way to communicate it. And
that's huge.
That was my moment, man. Probably a little more than I thought I would share, but that was it. And then, I've been able to carry myself on in different business careers and profession and still grow in that manner. So I have seen heavy stigmas. It affected me personally. And, nothing against anybody, but like it was harder to get treatment when you're somewhat of a name, and people don't want your name to be tarnished. Mm-hmm. So, I want to carve those stigmas down. And the competitor came out. And then I had a time literally earlier in the year, I'm 4 years sober. I had a time earlier in the year where I was faced with a very significant challenge. And I was stuck. It was, what do you want to do with this? It's what we've talked about. I was in a moment where I could have been full of pity and I could have played a victim and I could have been a baby. I could have killed over and people could have seen it and been like, oh, poor him. Or I could have done something. And it took a bunch of people, Samantha, my girlfriend including, that just said, you're capable. Go.
And dude, that's powerful, man.
And then I kept going, man, she's right. And my family, it's just like they've supported me, but then it's like, okay, it is, just go. Well, why wasn't I going? And I had these fears, dude. I'll do this thing with worry boxes, fears thing. Like the majority of the fears I wrote down, most of them didn't come true.
So like the anxiety piece.
Yeah.
Like fearing something could happen without having any legitimate reason to have that fear.
Yeah. And it's based on your own past experiences, conditions, trauma, environment, all it is revisiting it for a moment. It's not something you have to relive all the time. It's understanding the bad and the good and then learning how to bring it level, So I wanted to do this because I feel like a lot of folks are stuck and struggle with mental health and they don't know what to do about it and they don't like the label. And because they don't like the label, they don't want to go see a therapist. They don't want to go see a counselor. They don't want to go see a coach, because they're stuck in ISO mode. So my thing is, let's try to find a way to go talk about this thing, focal flip, change the perspectives, look it back inward, and we'll show it to where it's cool. It's casual. Watch how you can grow while understanding who you are. In my opinion, I don't think you can. If you don't understand the true you, I think you're stuck in life. I really do. I think you end up having anxiety. I think you end up having depression. I think you end up having all of these things. And so if we can understand what we can control with the labels, without the labels, it's a holistic care. So this is my attempt at doing that. So I want to destigmatize it, but also show people how you can own it. Addicts, alcoholics, you can get healthy by not putting a drink in you. But guess what? You get your mind right. That's it. Same way with anything. This thing doesn't discriminate.
So much of life starts in the mind, in the mentality. And so I think what you're doing is great, man. And like I said, I just wondered that. I know we talked about it a little bit, but like seeing how far you've come So in our locker room, whenever somebody does something great or above and beyond, we always say 2 claps. And so you said you were 4 years sober.
Yeah, man.
That's 2 claps for you, man.
Thanks, man.
That's amazing. Like, this setup, for anybody who doesn't know, this setup's amazing. This guy's got it going on, man. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for asking me that question, too. I get passionate. I'm a passionate guy, too.
I know you are.
I try to, stay kind of even keel on this sucker, but, man, I have a genuine, authentic passion for this, and I firmly believe that people can tackle their stuff much easier. Much more easier than what they make it to be. So we're just gonna try to do it right here.
It's great, man. Right here in your basement with all this memorabilia around. It's amazing, man. This was it's a great way to get it all out, and like you said, you can't do it alone.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
It's great to have good relationships and good people around you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Nick, thank you for coming out, man. We ran this sucker for a while. I knew we'd go for a while. We had 2 batteries go down because, low budget podcast people right here. And Nick handled it like a champ. So great job. You won't see it in the video editing.
That's
final product.
That's a good thing. Well, I appreciate you for having me on, man.
Thank you.
I love what you're doing. Keep going, man.
Appreciate it.
And next time I see you at a game, I'll make sure I stop and say hello and talk to you more. I'm
probably going to purposely get out of there.
We appreciate your support more than you know, man.
Always,
really
brother.
do. So
always. Good luck to the team, staff. I love you guys. It's going to be fun to see the whole season go, man. It's going to be great.
We're excited, man.
So you've got great kids.
Yep. Thank you, man.
All right, buddy. We'll see you. I'm out.
Later.
Okay. You ready to wrap this thing up?
If you like Focal Flips videos, my dad's videos, go to YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and like and subscribe to be updated.
I love it.